Hello everybody, it's another Tuesday night. We are starting some lessons here on sin, and the title is Sin, What is it? Sin, the definition of sin is any voluntary transgression or falling short of God's boundaries, moral standards, or lack of faith in Christ. There's two types of sin. Original, from the transgression of Adam and Eve, which is in Genesis 3, and actual, which is something one does or thinks. There are different words that the Bible uses for sin. Some of the Old Testament Hebrew words, I'm not going to get into the saying of the Hebrew words, but I'm going to just list the English versions of that and the New Testament ones. The Old Testament ones were bad, wickedness, guilt, sin, iniquity, error, wander away, and rebel. The New Testament words were bad, evil, godless, guilt, sin, unrighteousness, lawlessness, transgression, to be ignorant, to go astray, to fall away, and hypocrite. And the word for sin means missing the mark, and it was the most common one used in the New Testament. Let's look at some verses and see what they say about sin. 1 Timothy 1:8-10 tells us, "But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully." That's the key. "Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine." That's the key. Contrary to doctrine. Matthew 5:28 tells us, "But I say unto you that whoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." Remember, it's the thought that counts. And that's where all that happens. And another one here, Romans 14:23. "Whatsoever is not of faith is sin." So we have all these words of the Old and New Testament. For the lawless, the disobedient, the ungodly, sinners, unholy, profane, murderers, manslayers, whoremongers, them that defile themselves with mankind, men stealers, liars, perjured persons, any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. To lust after something, or even a woman or something else, that's sin too. It's the lust that's the sin. Remember, it's the thought that counts. The thought, where all this stuff happens, it's in the mind. It's in the battle of the mind. And lack of faith. Whatever is not of faith is sin. That's Romans 14:23. That's what Paul says. And this is pretty much where we get most of our doctrine of Christianity. Now see, sin was designed in our story before the world began. It started with Lucifer before creation. Ezekiel 28:13-15 tells us, "Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee." See, for Lucifer to be in the garden of God, he had to be created before our creation was even established. Lucifer was evil before the world began. And he was the head angel, the anointed cherub of God, the covering of the throne. He covered the throne. And he was also the workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes. He was also the musical angel in charge of God's choir. And again, he was the head angel. He was the covering of the throne. And his position had him in the throne room of God the Father. That's why he walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. He was in the throne room. That's where it started. It started with the iniquity before creation began, through pride and self-centeredness. It says that in Isaiah 14:11 through 14. Thy pomp, or self-centeredness, has brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worm cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of congregation. I will be like the Most High. Lucifer's jealousy against God knows no bounds. He's self-centered enough to tempt God in the flesh, which he tempted Jesus, which we have the 3 temptations of Christ. And he is self-driven to completely destroy God's entire creation. And he knows no bounds to do it, and he knows no rules. There are no rule and no boundaries that he won't cross to destroy this world and me and you. And Lucifer's name was changed to Satan at the time of his fall. Revelation 12:4 tells us that he not only isn't in it by himself, he took 1/3 of the angels with him. Let's look at Revelation 12:4. This tells us that. And his tail drew the 1/3 part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them down to earth. See, when the heavenly angels, 1/3 of them rebelled against God to be earthly down here. They wanted to roam down here with the women. These rebelling angels are the demons that tempt and try to destroy us now. They're in the spirit realm. They tempt and try to destroy us. And remember, Satan and the demons have no rules. And the demons and Satan can disguise themselves as good angels to try to lead you from God. An example is Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael are the names of angels, both good and bad. God's angels do not hang around transgressors or just anybody. The key difference is that the angels from the high court of God do biblical assignments and don't do general conversations or hang out. Fear not is part of their greeting due to their brilliance and appearance. They have to choose to remain pure to be in the courtroom of God, sin-free, undefiled from sin. In the world is sin. That's the key. See Matthew 28:5. And the angel said unto the woman, Fear not ye. That's how brilliant and fearful an angel is. Luke 1:13. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias. Luke 2:10. And the angel said unto him, Fear not. They must be an amazing sight if a human being could be fearful of him, especially the prophets and the chosen ones. And here's a perfect example of John, how frightened he was in Revelation 1:17. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not, I am the first and the last. John feared the heavenly sight of God's highest angel, which is Jesus Christ. And he knew him on earth. That's how fearful the sight of an angel from God's holy court is. But no worries, because the ending of all these demons and of all of these hideous things tempting us, and Satan himself, there is an end to it. Revelation 20:13-15 tells us, And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, and whoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So there are 2 appointments we have. One is our death, and the other is judgment, where we come face to face with Christ. There are no escapes from those two appointments. See, hell is not the final destination. The lake of fire is. And that second death that the Bible talks about is the separation from God and eternal torment in the lake of fire. Isaiah 66, 23 and 24 tells us this beautifully. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all flesh shall come to worship before me, saith the Lord. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of men that have transgressed against me. For the worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. This is the permanent solution to the problem of evil in our creation that God has established. Satan and all who rejected the offer of being rescued from the chains of original sin will be separated from all believers. That's where the Bible talks about the separation from the sheep and the goats. The sheep, the believers, will go one way, and the goats will go another. Because the sheep have a promise in Revelation 21:4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Wow. That's our end result as believers. Now we have boundaries that were set. There's New Testament boundaries which are very simple and easy to understand. Let's talk about some of them. James 4:17. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, it's a sin. Simple, easy to understand. Matthew 22:36 to 40. Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love the neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Now the Old Testament has meaning for us. Galatians 3:24 and 25 tell us this. The law was our schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, that we might be justified by faith. After faith has come, we are no longer under the schoolmaster. In other words, we use the old commandments to learn our boundaries. And then God simplifies them. Christ simplified it by saying, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. And thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Now, John 1:3-4 also tells us in the Old Testament, Whosoever committeth sin transgress the law also. For sin is the transgression of the law. That's the old school way of doing things. And we have Deuteronomy 5:6 to 21. We know these, but I'm just going to highlight them. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity on the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Christ shows mercy to us now, because he knows it's impossible for us to keep the law or the commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Neither shalt thou steal. Neither shalt thou bear false witness against thy neighbor. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife. Neither shalt thou cover thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, or his ox, or his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. We have some conclusions from this short lesson today. Evil takes on many forms and disguises. It is a voluntary action rebelling and straying from the boundaries and standards of God. Thank God we have the forgiveness, grace, and mercy of Christ. The boundaries and standard God has set are clear and explained in His Word. How can we learn about sin? Read God's Word daily. Pray to communicate with God, to fellowship with Him, to start a relationship with Him. His Bible teaches us how He thinks, how He walks, how He acts, how He wants us to act. It teaches us, it corrects us. It informs us, it guides us. And fasting. When we're serious about prayer and we're serious about thoughts about God, fasting is when we deny ourselves pleasures of this world to pray and focus on God, to show Him that we're serious about what we're doing in prayer. This concludes our short lesson for today. I have a video, and then we're going to have a question and answer session.